Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Tim's News Explosion on this Monday, the 1st of May, 2023. We are live on YouTube on the Unshackled YouTube channel. We are on the Tim Wilms D Live channel, and as always, on the Wilmsfront Odyssey channel. Entropy is live. If people in the live chat want to ask direct questions of myself throughout the show, or even better yet, send through super chats to support this program and other Unshackled productions. I still haven't shaken the cold I got after last Monday's show. My nose gave way and snot just started to pour out, but I think I'm finally on the mend, but my voice is still a bit nasally. I've got the tissues again on standby. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where rumours are growing that Dan Andrews could retire in the middle of the year and hand over to his chosen successor from his socialist left faction, Infrastructure Transport Minister Jacinta Allen. But there is obviously it's going to take a lot more than Dan Andrews leaving for the stink to go away from the Labor government in Victoria, which has Dan and his Labor government have survived extraordinary amount of scandals and IBAC investigations, cost blowouts, corruption inquiries, you name it, the list goes on and on. But one of the oldest, well, you would say, where not all the facts were known, the oldest scandal to dog Dan Andrews was the 2013 car accident when his wife was driving in Blairgowrie, and Dan Andrews and his wife Catherine said at the time that the cyclist, who was 15 at the time, T-boned their car. Like, they were just driving around the road and then he just crashed into the side. But late last year, before the election, we saw the photos from the crash scene of the car, and it looks very, very much like that they had driven into him when he was cycling across the road. This was the Herald Sun on Friday. And so the headline was Fast and Furious, because, well, 10 years later, the Herald Sun managed to get the ambulance report, which state Andrews' car struck teen cyclist at 40 to 60 kilometers, contradicting Premier's claim they were T-boned by bike. And remember, at the time, a proper police procedure was not followed. Catherine Andrews was not breathalyzed, and even though the car windshield was damaged, I'll bring up the photo again. You can see in the corner there, Dan Andrews was allowed to drive it away. Extraordinary, but even 10 years later, we still haven't got to the bottom of this, why the photos and the ambulance report has been kept secret for 10 years and until now. Now, another legacy of Dan Andrews' premiership when he goes will be the drug injecting room in North Richmond. Now, it was meant to be it was in the lead up to the 2017 Northcote by-election, which was won by Lydia Thorpe of the Greens. So it was announced first as a trial, this drug injecting facility at North Richmond. Now legislation is before the Parliament to make it permanent. The Victorian Greens, they want to push or putting forth amendments that would make it easier to license more than one medically supervised injecting room, because there is a consultation to have a second injecting room in the CBD. The rumor is that it'll be at a property near Flinders Street Station. So the amendments from the Greens, they want to expand eligibility to those who are pregnant or under 18 or on court orders, and peer and partner injection would also be sanctioned, which they claim will be in line with expert advice, but not for those who are under 18. Now, of course, we are with these state, you should call them state-sanctioned drug injecting rooms, because drugs like heroin, ice, and obviously they're not injected, but cocaine, MDMA, that's also illegal. But people are going to this injecting facility to inject illicit drugs. They're carrying these illicit drugs on them into the facility. And there was an interesting exchange that Neil Mitchell had on his 3AW radio program last week with an acting inspector Duke about what Victoria Police does if they find someone with heroin on their way to an injecting facility.
If I was to be stopped then on the streets and I'm carrying heroin.
Yes. I hope you're not.
Not a lot, no, but I'm carrying heroin, I'm going through Richmond, and the police stop me and I say, but I'm going down to the injecting facility to use it. Am I charged with possession or not?
Yes, you would be.
Even though I'm going to the
Yes.
that means I can't really legally take drugs to that facility.
That's correct.
So what's the point of the facility if I can't take drugs there?
The purpose of the facility is for people that are in there to be medically supervised when they're injecting the drugs, and to save lives, to stop people being killed on our streets due to drugs.
But effectively they're breaking the law by going there because they're carrying their drugs there.
They are carrying their drugs there, yes.
And they're breaking the law.
Yes.
Oh. So it's no defence. If I'm about to walk into the facility carrying my little bag of heroin or whatever, because I don't sell it in there, thankfully, it's no defence that I'm going into a legal facility to use it.
No.
No. Well, nobody was charged for that.
No.
Now, assuming the numbers, the North Richmond Community Health Centre had 8,000 visits in the first couple of months. This is the injecting facility. Assume the numbers are roughly the same. That's about 1,000 people a week using the facility who are walking into that facility carrying drugs and haven't been charged.
That's correct.
Is that good?
They're using the drugs. We certainly are not encouraging anybody to use drugs. Any drug in the wrong hand can actually kill somebody.
But was there a policy here to stay away from the injecting facility?
No.
Lady of Charlotte says they give them a lift, of course they love them. That reminds me of a conspiracy theory that Bronwyn Bishop once said on Sky News. She alleged that Dan Andrews put the North Richmond heroin injecting room next to a primary school because he wants children addicted to drugs. I saw another comment up here from Larrikin. Junkie phobia. Junkies are an oppressed minority. We're not allowed to use the term junkie anymore. That's a slur, a word. So I guess you have to call somebody an addict or has a dependence issue. But yes, that was extraordinary. An extraordinary exchange there from a senior member of Victoria Police with Neil Mitchell. Of course, as I said, this is sort of a halfway approach. They could always just legalize all drugs But of course, the Labor government here is never going to do that. They're even too timid to legalise cannabis, even though there's support from left-wing parties. There's legalised cannabis MPs and also Liberal Democrats, and there's support from the left and the right there. But yes, the Andrews government, they're just sort of happy with this sort of weird legal gaping hole there is what you would call it. Now, another reform that the Andrews government is embarking on is to raise the age of criminal responsibility from 10 to 12 by the end of next year, and then they are going to raise it to 14 in 2027. So the idea of raising the age of criminal responsibility is that children below that age are not held criminally responsible for their actions. Now, there is a growing legal push to raise the age. That's the campaign there, and it's the justification is that it stops young people going into correctional facilities and starting off a cycle of crime in their youth, because one of the arguments is that even youth detention facilities are universities of crime, and they end up worse or worse than they were when they got put there. But obviously, there are some young children who do. There's examples all around the world of children committing horrific acts, and obviously there was the murder of James Bolger in the UK at the early 90s by two young children, and it was absolutely horrific murder. Lady of Shalott might remember that, but he was murdered by two children, and but they were released when they were adult because they couldn't give them life imprisonment since they were minors, and one of them's reoffended, being caught with child pornography. So obviously there needs to be exceptions if they are going to raise the age, that serious crimes, abhorrent crimes like that, still need to be punished to keep the community safe. Now, obviously, we have had Dan Andrews recently defend drag queen story hour for children. And one of the Labor-controlled local councils, the Monash City Council, it is planning a drag queen story time event at the Oakleigh Library that they run. It is going to be held by drag queen Sam T on IDAHOBIT Day, which is May 17. That's another alphabet day, International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Intersex phobia, and transphobia. And now some of the books that could be read to these children, like children who are 1, well, they're still babies. They can't talk. They're only just learning to walk. So these are some of the books that could be read to these children. So one of them is She's My Dad. So my dad used to be a he, but now she is a she. She did this thing called transition. And then there is another one, Jacob's School Play, starring he, she, and they, introduces readers to gender identity and pronoun use. And then there is another book, I haven't got the photo for it, which is the The hips on the drag go swish, 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 a quirky twist on classic nursery rhyme by illustrating all of the ways to work it. The story plays on the wheels on the bus as it follows a drag queen who performs her routine in front of an awestruck audience. Now, this drag queen, Sam T, he was shocked this is from Neil Mitchell interview on March 29, shocked at the Storytime controversy. And so he said, it's 2023. I don't understand how people can think so backwards, to be honest. Now, this was actually one of Neil Mitchell's better interviews where he pressed him like there is a message you're trying to push on the children, because this drag queen Sam T said, well, we're wanting to reach children who may be gender non-conforming, and we want to teach them that it's okay, ages 1 to 6. And this is some of Sam T's, what you call, art. So this a lot of this this campaign against this drag queen Storytime is being pushed by a new group called Voice for Kids. I'm not sure who is behind it, this Voice for Kids, but it's certainly a worthy cause. So Voice for Kids says, are you sick of your child's school pushing the LGBTIQA+ agenda, lying about biology and confusing your kids? 99% of parents feel the same, but everyone is too scared to say so. If you don't want to speak up, you might regret it for the rest of your life. We're a small group of concerned mothers who want to connect with like-minded parents locally so they can push back together. And of course, last week there was a number of ratepayers. There might have been some who were outside Monash City Council, turned up to the council meeting last Wednesday to air their objections to the council promoting, facilitating, sanctioning this drag queen Storytime event for children aged 1 to 6. And this is the answer that they got from the council, which was beamed into the public gallery.
Given the huge success of drag Storytime at Oakleigh Library, which is already sold out, will council run this wonderful event again to support and celebrate Storytime is from Alex McAllen. Alex, are you here to ask a question this evening? Oakleigh Library is hosting a drag Storytime event on 19 May 2023. The audience is 1 to 6-year-old children. The books being have safe reading guidelines for 4+ years old. What is council doing to ensure the safeguarding of the 1 to 3-year-olds at this event who should not be read these books? Drag Storytime, and the combined answer addresses all the questions, but as I said, each question submitter will receive a written response following the meeting. So thank you all for your questions regarding the upcoming Drag Storytime event. The Drag Storytime event is scheduled to be held on 19 May to celebrate the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia.
It's 2 days before it. It's on the 17th that day.
Promoting the love of reading. This is just one of many programs that our libraries and other services run each year, many of which target specific communities. Council will continue to provide a range of events and activities across the year which support and celebrate our LGBTIQA+ community, and will continue to implement its LGBTIQA+ action plan. As with all our programs, a review will be undertaken after the event. Council undertakes risk assessments for its events and works with appropriate staff and organisations to ensure the safety of those who attend any events, including the upcoming Storytime. Monash Council is committed to child safety and all events and programs.
Bullshit.
For working with children The books being read are chosen by qualified and experienced librarians and celebrate diversity and acceptance.
Now, Victoria Police were present there to, as they would most likely say, to make sure there are no breaches of the peace. The whole protest, we should say the ratepayers there turning up to raise their objections with the council. It was live streamed by Real Action. Victorian United Australia Party Senator Ralph Babette was there. And now the mainstream media, they have placed the blame for this protest on groups including My Place, which is in Frankston, and Reignite Democracy Australia, which they describe as espousing views often associated with the alt-right. We're still using that term, or conspiracy theory thinking, and can be hostile to the LGBTQ community. And now the state government is not going to give councils extra security. So Minister Steve Dimpologos, a former mayor of Monash, said that it was absolutely unsound and ridiculous, the protest, but he downplayed the wider threat to councils. Let's not over-exaggerate this. I can't see how this is happening regularly. It seems fairly rare to me in terms how it would happen in a public council meeting. And so it mentions here that at least 15 councils statewide have been disrupted in recent months by fringe groups that concern themselves with conspiracies involving 5G, gender issues, lockdown, vaccination, and 15-minute cities. Now there is the Municipal Association of Victoria recommending affected councils move their public meetings online, saying it was worried that councils were having to close public galleries and shift to online meetings. This was what Stuart Hamilton said, Director of Integrity Body Accountability Roundtable, and Dimopoulos has said that the Victorian Parliament was open to the public every day and most governments operated this way. But it seems to some that concern ratepayers, residents, turning up to council meetings to express their displeasure at council decisions. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. So we must shut the actual public operation of democracy and move it to the cyber world. Now, of course, as I mentioned, a drag queen story time has the Andrews government blessing. So that Monash Council, out of the 11 members, 7 is Labor, 2 Greens, 1 Liberal and 1 Independent. There was a 7:30 report segment that just aired tonight, which talked about the threat to gay and transgender communities by protests such as this, and also featured the Christian Lives Matter group in Sydney as well. And now the city of Casey and Bundoora, they backed down on their proposed drag queen story time, which was a victory for people power. But coming soon to Melbourne in August is the Drag Expo, which is, its tagline is celebrating all things drag, pop culture and beauty. And it's promoted as family friendly. And so it's 11 to 13th of August at the Melbourne Convention and Exhibition Centre. So pretty big venue there. And if you look at the ticketing here, children under 8 get in for free. Now, obviously, an event like Sexpo is it's limited to 18 plus, and so should this drag expo, given the type of content that is in drag conventional drag shows there. So this is even, you could argue, even more alarming than a drag queen story time that not just children allowed in, but they get a they get a free ticket as well there. Now, it seems that all of this indoctrination, whether it LGBT indoctrination, whether it be at school or in community events, it's having an effect on the young. This was in the Daily Telegraph back in January 23 this year. So this is so it's titled "Big Youth Survey Shows How Young Aussies Are Changing on Kids, Marriage, Gender and Home Life." So a third of Australians aged 15 to 24 identify as LGBTIQ+, while more males than females want to get married and have children. And a surprising amount say they have a disability. 1 in 5 say they never party, while 40% say they party less than a month. And so it goes further down. One of the greatest surprises is how many of the age group identify as LGBTIQ+. The figure was 32%, with an additional 5% preferring not to say. That number rises to 34% when just looking at 18 to 24 age groups. And so it is up from 15% in 2020. So it's doubled in 3 years. This is according to Year 13, which undertook this survey on behalf of News Corp. And he said, while the number moves around a bit with each survey, the general trend over the past years has been upward in alphabet identification. Gen Zs are more informed about these different sexual orientations and gender identities than previous generations, where at the same age you might have denied it, kept it secret, or have just been simply unaware of it. And that quotes child psychologist Dr. Kimberly O'Brien, who says she has seen a rise in clients identifying as LGBTIQ+ and wanting to be referred to as they, them. We are being more sensitive to these pronouns. So she runs the Quirky Kid Clinic. I'm not surprised by these numbers. Every 5th report I write about is gender, and promoted in this article is full-time TikTokers Taz Zemet and Alyssa Afri. They set up their account in 2020 as friends, but they fell in love. They have 527,000 TikTok followers, and they say that most Gen Z age bracket is more open to different ways to love someone. There they are there. Now, moving on to our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. On Saturday, some called it the worst day of his prime ministership, as he was accused of being completely tone deaf and out of touch. Firstly, for attending a Kyle Sandilands wedding to his now wife, Tegan Kyneston. So their wedding cost $1 million and was held at the $60 million Swiss mansion at Darling Point. Now, Anthony Albanese, he confirmed his attendance in an interview with Kyle and Jackie O last Monday in a wide-ranging interview, where he was also asked about whether he had any knowledge of the existence of UFOs.
DJing at Kyle's wedding.
Oh, yes.
That's still happening.
Yeah, that's on. That's on.
So you're going to keep your promise. You won't be. Oh, you never know. You might have to be called away.
I keep my promises. Yeah. I keep my promises.
Well, we'll make a spot in the
It's
car
impressive.
park for the flag car. Although yours will be the worst car in the car park. I'm not, even though it's a very nice car.
But maybe the heaviest. Like
That's
it weighs
true.
a bit.
Yeah.
I got a few other people with bomb-proof cars as well, but they're different. I'll put you on different sides of the marquee.
Now, there were many from both the left and the right who were questioning Albanese's judgment to go, given that Kyle's groomsmen were Sydney King's Cross nightclub identity. John Ibrahim. He's had another mini-series made about his life, The Last King of the Cross, on Paramount Plus. And also Simon Main. Simon Main was jailed for ecstasy trafficking in Italy in 2000. Now, Victorians will remember how the Victorian Labor Party were relentless in their pursuit of Matthew Guy for his alleged lobster with a mobster, allegedly dining with an organised crime figure in 2017. The Labor-aligned union movement, in fact, it had made up dedicated lobster outfits so they could go and crash Matthew Guy events as lobsters. Yet Anthony Albanese, he knowingly attends a wedding with these two, knowing that these two will be in attendance. Though I guess it's not the first time a Labor politician has been associated with a drug trafficker, because you might not know that Tanya Plibersek, the Environment Minister, former federal Labor deputy leader, her husband, Michael Coutts-Trotters, he was jailed in the 80s for heroin dealing, and he is now a high-level bureaucrat in the New South Wales government, has run several New South Wales state government departments there. And Anthony Albanese, he was asked about his attendance at the wedding earlier on the Saturday. He had a busy day of flights because his day started in Hobart, where he was pledging $240 million of federal funding for the AFL Macquarie Point Stadium. The Tasmanian government is pledging $375 million. The total cost will be $715 million. And it's only going to have a capacity of 23,000, not going to be completed until 2029, even though an AFL Tasmanian side is going to be joining in 2027. Hobart already has Bellerive Oval, Bluntstone Arena, which it has a capacity of 19,500, hosts Test cricket and also the Big Bash. So this is totally an unnecessary stadium there. And so this was Albanese trying to answer a question, justifying his attendance at Kyle and Jackie O's wedding, and trying to shush up the protesters there, who, to my knowledge, were Greens aligned, protesting about, the funding for the stadium not going to housing and or cost of living relief.
The Prime Minister has been met with anger while pledging $240 million for a new sports stadium in Tasmania. Protesters accusing his government of failing to address the country's housing crisis, with warnings it's about to get worse due to a record surge in migration.
Pursued by protesters and heckled over housing.
The Prime Minister has been met with anger while pledging $240 million for a new sports stadium in Tasmania. Protesters accusing his government of failing to address the country's housing crisis, with warnings it's about to get worse due to a record surge in migration.
Pursued by protesters and heckled over housing.
People don't need a stadium, people need a roof.
Anthony Albanese in Hobart for a stadium announcement a group of bystanders didn't want to hear.
Let's talk about housing, Prime Minister.
Do you want to... Yeah, I think you've had your say.
Some say the housing shortage is about to get worse as net migration surges to its highest level on record.
Well, the consequences will be a housing crisis. It'll be a rental crisis.
New Treasury figures revealing 715,000 migrants are expected to arrive here over 2 years. including 400,000 this year alone, 165,000 more than forecast in the October budget.
The increase in demand for housing will likely push up rents.
Now, apologies for the double play there, but yes, it goes to this Nine News piece goes to the tone-deaf nature of Anthony Albanese's stadium announcement, given that the housing crisis is going to get a lot worse with mass migration returning. Now, both Albanese and the Tasmanian government, the only Liberal government left in Australia, led by Premier Jeremy Rockcliffe, he may as well be Labor because he's pretty lefty. They're trying to sell this stadium as a urban renewal, because this Macquarie Point, it's a undeveloped decadent area of Hobart there. So as you can see, it'll look like a nice jazzy stadium, but it's unnecessary. But that's not it. There is going to be a redevelopment. So Anthony Albanese flew up to Launceston in northern Tasmania to announce that the Albanese government would be matching the Tasmanian government's $65 million pledge for the York Park upgrade. So that's $65 million each. So to upgrade it to 27,500 there, that'll be finished projected by 2025. But a lot of these stadium builds blow out. Now, this is this new stadium in Hobart and the upgrade in Launceston. It's both the Tasmanian and federal governments are giving in to extortion by the AFL, who said that if you don't give us a new stadium in Hobart, upgrade the one in Launceston, you're not getting the AFL team, which is not going to be joining by 2027. And of course, we have the Queensland government. They are redeveloping, knocking down the Gabba and rebuilding it. It has a capacity of around 42,000 at a cost of 2.7 billion for the Olympics, and will only have a capacity of 50,000. So yeah, these stadiums just get more and more and more. And I'm a Stupid Moron says the Perth Stadium was meant to cost $750 million, but cost up to $1.8 billion. And don't get me wrong, these are nice stadiums. The Perth Stadium, called Optus Stadium, it's a magnificent stadium, but it cost the taxpayers a lot of money. And of course, the most recent stadium rebuild was the Sydney Football Stadium Allianz Arena. That was a flashpoint in the 2019 New South Wales state election, which Gladys Berejiklian won. I did go to that old stadium there, and I did agree that it was unsafe. It was made in 1988 because there were no exits behind the touchline. So if there was a fire or a disaster, there's not many easy exits, and so there could be a human crush there. Lady of Charlotte says, hate stadium, that Marvel thing is revolting. I actually like Marvel Stadium, and that stood the test of time. It opened 2000, and it still looks really modern there. It's called Marvel Stadium because it's sponsored by Marvel Studios. Now, as that Nine News report mentioned, there is the mass migration returning to Australia, and we had the Home Affairs Minister, Claire O'Neill. She unveiled at the National Press Club a what's it called? What did she title it again? It's she released the strategic review of Australia's migration system. So the headlines is that it's undergo a major overhaul following a scathing review, which claims it is failing to meet current needs. So it was done by former head secretary of the Department of Prime Minister and Cabinet, Martin Parkinson, who served under Malcolm Turnbull. So the report highlighted lack of policy for lower paid workers and increasing labour shortages. It said the migration system is not effectively targeted to either current or future needs, and warned Australia was failing to attract skilled migrants during a time of global competition for labour. The review said there was widespread evidence that temporary migrant workers are being exploited, and aspects of the migration system heighten the risk. It called for a government overhaul of the government's skilled occupation list for employer sponsorship, claiming they don't meet the current needs for labour. There are concerns Australia will not have available housing to meet future influx of migrants. We'll have 650,000 migrants coming in the next couple of years. The Albanese government announced the skilled migrant worker program is being lifted to nearly 200,000 people a year because of from its current rate of 160,000 due to a national labour shortage. Now, this going back to this section here, claiming that the government's skilled occupation lists don't meet current needs for labour. That means they need to import more nurses, aged care workers to look after the aging population. So it's basically importing a workforce to take care of our elderly, since sadly a lot of younger Australians don't want to take care of their elderly parents, just want to put them into an aged care facility. Now, with the housing crisis going to be turbocharged with this mass migration, the Labor governments, they're hitting out at the Greens. There is a turn away from the NIMBYs. The NIMBYs, not in my backyard, the people who oppose developments in their inner suburbs. They are becoming, there's more, the animosity towards them is growing stronger. And so both Anthony Albanese and the Queensland Labor Deputy Premier Stephen Miles have hit out at the Greens Party's proposal to stop rents and housing prices. Well, to stop rents increasing, I should say. They are demanding all the states and territories implement a rent freeze, which of course that would diminish the supply of housing even further. So the Greens, they are going to be blocking the Housing Australia Future Fund in the Senate unless the federal government forces the states to implement a rent control. And so Anthony Albanese said that they are saying they want more investment in social and affordable housing, and their strategy is to block that. And so there was Stephen Miles. He said that the Greens policies will not deliver an additional affordable house for Queenslanders. The only thing a policy like that would do is drive investors out of the market and cause people to stop developments that are already underway. We've heard from investors that developers, we need more supply, more stock, and policies like that, extreme radical policies like that might be good for getting the Greens political party headline bill, not deliver an additional affordable homes to Queensland. It seems that the Greens, the only homes that they want built are ones owned by the governments. They hate if it's built by private developers. But yeah, I guess it shows that they basically are a communist party. I mean, they want rent controls is a massive intervention in the market, and by basically saying that the only housing development you support is state built affordable housing, that's basically a communist policy. I mean, we have we almost have a centrally controlled a housing system anyway, because we have the immigration controls that's centrally controlled by the government. So are the housing controls, so is the energy market as well, the infrastructure as well. So if the government doesn't doesn't expand all of the parts of the housing and transporting the nation at once, then there's going to be a huge imbalance there. If they're going to allow mass migration, then at the same time they have to have a proper plan to allow more housing, transport, and also energy as well, because remember, we're having less energy supply now when we need more, and we also need more dams for water as well. The list goes on and on and on. Pete Cosman says the only thing Australia can do now is go communist, just abolish private property altogether. It's what they want. Well, as I'm just saying that we're almost halfway there. There's the illusion that we have a free market for most things when we don't. Now, there is the other pressure on from Anthony Albanese's own left flank. All the pressure this week is coming from his left flank, so whether from the Labor left or the Greens. So here there is a campaign by his own MPs to raise the job seeker rate. So there is 6 MPs who have signed an open letter, 6 Labor backbenchers, Michelle Anaja Raja, who is the member for Higgins, Mary Doyle, the new Labor member for Aston, Peter Khalil, the member for Wills. These are all seats in Victoria. Louise Miller-Frost, I'm not sure what seat she's from, not from Victoria. Elisa Payne, and also Kate Thwaite. She is the member for Scullion, so another Victorian there. And then there's other MPs who have supported raising the job seeker rate who haven't signed the open letter. Now, it's just broken tonight that the Albanese government in the budget will raise the rate for Australians aged over 55, the job seeker rate, given that it is harder for older Australians to gain employment, given they're already deemed by some employers as being in their senior years, and they're unwilling to take on to train seniors. Which is there's sadly this ageism in our system. And also for those who are at a more of risk of homelessness. I'm not sure what sort of means test they are going to be implementing for that. Now, we had last week Mark Latham, who has been re-elected to the New South Wales Upper House for another eight-year term. Grant his first interview, not just post his re-election, but also post his comment or tweet reply to a New South Wales independent MP for Sydney, Alex Greenwich. Now, of course, as I said, the mainstream media, they said that Mark Latham's tweet was so homophobic and disgusting, we have chosen not to air it. Well, as you know, here I don't believe in censoring the news. To refresh your memory, so this was in response to Alex Greenwich calling Mark Latham a disgusting human being, and that people voting for One Nation need to realise they are voting for an extremely hateful and dangerous individual who risks causing a great deal of damage to our state. Mark Latham responded, this was on 30th of March, saying, disgusting. How does that compare with sticking your dick up a bloke's ass and covering it with shit? Now, Mark Latham deleted that comment. It was disgusting in its graphic description of a sexual act. Mark Latham said that he deleted it because he didn't want that on his timelines. Now, he said in he was quoted in a Daily Telegraph article saying boo-hoo, like, I'm never going to apologize to the alphabet mafia. And this is what he said on Christmas radio program on TNT radio when he was asked about the calls to apologize, including from One Nation leader Pauline Hanson.
Leader Pauline Hanson demanded you apologise. Have you privately, or will you, or what are you waiting for?
Well, Pauline hasn't rung me at any stage. during this. I've had no contact from her whatsoever, and what I know is
she said she left you a message.
Well, I'm assuming that as a woman, she doesn't understand how straight men feel about this, and I don't think gay men obviously wouldn't understand how straight men feel about it. But it's true. It's an absolute fact, integral to our existence. It's not confected outrage or a confected point of view, but we find the thought of having anal sex with another man to be off-putting, disgusting, horrible, vomit-worthy. So, that's just the reality. And that's not homophobia. That's just nature. That's why we're straight men. And I know straight men get no place in these public debates. You can listen to Channel 10 and the ABC and some of the people on Sky, and on it goes, Channel 9, the Fairfax media, and we're all dreadful, dreadful straight men. Well, the basic natural reality is that we don't go for anal sex with blokes, and it's puke-worthy.
All right. Pauline Hanson might demand that you resign from the party if you don't apologise. What will happen then? Are you prepared to do that?
Well, she hasn't contacted me, and I'm not apologising. So I'm not resigning from anything. I'm not apologising. I'm not backing down, because I don't believe in going to a church hall meeting in an election campaign and having that pile on.
Now, a scientific study backs up Mark Latham's remarks there that straight men find the thought of two men having anal sex disgusting. So this is way back from 2017. There was a peer-reviewed scientific study in the journal Psychology and Sexuality, which found that straight men's psychological stress response to seeing two men kissing is the same as seeing maggots. Now, this obviously didn't, as the headline said, they didn't show them photos of two men having anal sex, but even just by kissing there, so it was they had the same psychological stress and as seeing maggots or spoiled food or rotting flesh as well. Now, Alex Greenwich, his response to Mark Latham, or you'd say he's tripled down now, is to launch what it has been described as a three-pronged legal assault on Mark Latham.
Police are tonight investigating a homophobic tweet by Mark Latham, which was directed at a fellow state MP. If charged and convicted, the online attack could cost the One Nation leader his seat in Parliament.
Alex Greenwich lawyered up and putting his foot down.
Enough is enough. And someone needs to stand up to Mark Latham, and I intend to do that.
The pair rarely see eye to eye.
But
this is much more serious than a political debate. The One Nation leader last month posted a homophobic tweet about Mr Greenwich, which we've chosen not to publish. Now, the independent MP has hit back with a three-pronged legal onslaught, serving Mark Latham with a defamation notice, as well as making a complaint to the Discrimination Board and a statement to police, with officers now investigating whether it could amount to an offence of using a carriage service to menace or harass.
After Mr Latham published that tweet, Alex was the subject of ridicule, hatred and contempt. He couldn't even open his Twitter application without anxiety and stress.
Mr Greenwich today going public with his legal pursuit after Mark Latham doubled down in an online radio interview.
Well, Alex Greenwich, I told you what straight men regard as disgusting. I'm not resigning from anything. I'm not apologising. I'm not backing down.
Mark Latham didn't answer calls this afternoon. He has 17 days to respond to Alex Greenwich's legal letter. But before that deadline, the pair will come face to face when Parliament resumes next week with a joint sitting. And the one-time wannabe Prime Minister's upper house seat is now under threat. If charged by police and convicted, he'd be automatically booted from state parliament.
Now, Alex Greenwich, before he was the independent state MP for Sydney, he was the convener of Australian marriage equality. And he would have gotten nasty emails during that time saying all sorts of mean and horrible things to him. Yet he's apparently now Mark Latham has caused him such psychological distress where he's going for the trifecta. So because New South Wales, they're the only state which has a civil homosexual vilification law. There's not one in Victoria, and he's also going for this is actually a federal offence, using a carriage service to menace or harass. So you should be directing that to the federal police. And how would a defamation proceeding work? I mean, Mark Latham's tweet is describing a sexual act. So how is it? You'd have to argue for that tweet to be defamatory, that it's defamatory to say that he performs that sexual act. And so it quotes Greenwich here, say, I've been openly gay in public life for 15 years and in Parliament for over 10 years, and I've never experienced such homophobic sexualized attack that exposed me to contempt, ridicule, and extreme abuse based on my sexuality. And as to quote Mark Latham himself, boo-hoo. Now, Alex Greenwich is not the only person in Australia trying to silence somebody for offending the LGBT community. You might remember a few weeks back, I brought you this story from the TERF website Redux, that former American YouTuber, trans YouTuber Riley J. Dennis, who's a male to female transgender, is now playing soccer in Australia, and was leading the goal kicking, and had allegedly injured female players. Now, the reason that Riley J. Dennis has officially settled in Australia is because her wife is Australian. But I also wonder, maybe Riley Dennis has some family here, because her appearance looks strangely like she looks like she could be related to the New South Wales Chief Health Officer, Kerry Chant. I know that the XYZ believe that Kerry Chant is a transgender. They called her in an article the Chief Tranny Officer. So now the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia, Julie Ingman Grant, you might remember she was an attendee at Davos last year. So she contacted Twitter and ordered them to take down the links to that Redux article in Australia. It's not blocked in the Australian internet because I'm accessing this right now. But yeah, she sent a email to Twitter ordering them to take it down. So this is the statement that Redux has put out. On April 28th, we received a notice from the E-Safety Commissioner of Australia advising us to heavily censor or delete an article we had published on April 1. The article, titled "Thousands of Complaints Filed After Trans YouTuber Allowed to Play on Women's Football League Reported Injured Players," revealed the identity of a transgender male who'd been subject of mass complaint after allegedly injuring female players while competing on women's football team in New South Wales. We correctly identified the player who'd been the subject of the complaint as trans activist Riley Dennis. In addition to demanding we remove or censor the article, the E-Safety Commissioner advised Twitter that we had broken Australian law. Twitter then informed us the content would be withheld in Australia. After comprehensive analysis of the compelling arguments presented by the E-Safety Commissioner, including that it was offensive to have called Riley Dennis a man, Redux has decided to leave the article up without alteration. It seemed that our E-Safety Commissioner, Julie Ingman Grant, seemed to accept Riley J. Dennis's argument from one of her YouTube video that misgendering someone is an act of violence, and so has ordered the takedown there. But Redux is not taking it down. Nick Holt of the Australian Independent News Network, he's just conducted an interview with the founder of Redux there. Now let's go over to the United States, and before we get to the two big news media firings, let's talk about the 2024 campaign. Now, Joe Biden, he officially launched his a 2024 re-election campaign pitch with the slogan, "Let's finish the job," which I mean, it's just playing into his opponent's hands. Finish the job of making America even more polarized, a increasing crime in the cities, increasing inflation, impinging on Americans' constitutional rights, and all the rest of it. And now, of course, Joe Biden, he is 80 at the moment. If he is re-elected for a second term, which the polls do actually suggest, he'd be 86 by the time he completes his second term. He is already the oldest. He was already the oldest president ever inaugurated and also in office as well. Ronald Reagan, he was the oldest. He was previously the oldest president ever inaugurated. He was 77 when he left office. Biden was 78 when he was first inaugurated as president. And cackling Kamala Harris, she is featured in the re-election campaign ads. So it looks like she will be again selected as Biden's VP pick, which she would again be a heartbeat, or what is it, brain cell away from the presidency. Though, to counter Biden's old age and senile, his cognitive decline, the Democrats have two Gen Z Zoomer influencers who are campaigning for them. So this is Harry Sisson and Chris Murray. This is their video bagging the Republicans.
What the Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken.
Now, it's been highlighted by many conservative activists on Twitter that these two influencers, so Harry Sisson has 681,000 followers on TikTok. Chris Murray has 204,000 followers on TikTok. They are both represented by the same management agency, Palette Management, who receive funds from the Democratic National Committee to promote their content. Though both of them have released a subsequent video denying that they are paid shills, and they are doing this because they support the Democrats and Joe Biden's re-election. Now, in my opinion, paid or not paid, these two Zoomer lads, they definitely look like men, and I assume that they identify as men. They're a better face of better face to pitch to the center than the dyed hair, obese Zer with their piercings and tattoos or whatever there. So yeah, they look normalish, and so they're good spokespeople there. Now, Ron DeSantis, he hasn't announced if he's running for 2024, the Florida legislature had to pass a law to allow DeSantis to run for president while still being the governor of Florida. Now, when Disney criticized the new Florida parental rights in education bill, which banned LGBT indoctrination for grade 3 or lower, it was misleadingly called the Don't Say Gay bill. Disney said they were against it, and DeSantis said, right, well, you're not getting special tax treatment anymore in where Disneyland is, and where you have your designed, planned community there. So now Disney is suing Ron DeSantis, claiming political interference. Now, when this news came through, Nikki Haley, she was appearing on Fox News. She is another candidate. She is the Rhino candidate, the neoconservative approved candidate, former South Carolina governor and UN ambassador. This was her response to Disney suing Ron DeSantis.
Haley, I want to ask you about what could be another Republican candidate in the field, and that is Ron DeSantis. We just learned a few moments ago that Disney is now suing the Florida governor for alleging political effort to hurt their business. We've all been watching this back and forth for quite some time. This is obviously dramatically escalating the feud between Disney and Ron DeSantis. They're alleging that the Republican governor has waged a, quote, relentless campaign to weaponize government power over the company. What is your reaction to that, as we still have yet to see him jump officially into the race?
You know, as governor, I took a double-digit unemployment state and I turned it into an economic powerhouse. Businesses were my partners, because if you take care of your businesses, you take care of your economy takes care of the people, and everyone wins. And so that's the way we dealt with it. South Carolina was a very anti-woke state. It still is. And if Disney would like to move their hundreds of thousands of jobs to South Carolina and bring the billions of dollars with them, I'll let them know. I'll be happy to meet them in South Carolina and introduce them to the governor and the legislature that would welcome it.
Yeah, so Nikki Haley, she's pro come on in, Disney. So she, in the tweet, she actually promoted this on her Twitter account. She said, South Carolina is anti-woke, but we're not sanctimonious. So obviously that's her own play on Trump's nickname for Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSanctimonious. And now, of course, Ron DeSantis, he gained a national profile as a governor during the COVID pandemic, when Florida became a refuge state for those fleeing COVID tyranny from all around the world. He was the freedom governor. He says we chose freedom over Fauci. That was one of his slogans. Well, his freedom reputation is now completely destroyed. He was in Israel last week when he signed an appalling anti-free speech law. So this was HB 269. This was written by Andrew Torba, the founder of Gab on Gab News. So this bill makes it a felony with up to 5 years in jail for passing out offensive flyers or pamphlets. So this has been widely criticized by free speech advocates and legal experts as a gross violation of the First Amendment. So bill states anyone who is distributing any material for the purpose of intimidating or threatening the owner could be convicted of a felony hate crime. So the legislation came about after activists from a group called the Goyim Defense League made headlines for several years for their activism efforts. The Goyim Defense League activism takes the form of distributing flyers that contain uncomfortable truths about individuals who control the mainstream media in the United States. These flyers have been handed out across multiple states, including Florida, have been met with a mixed reactions from the public. Despite the controversy about the flyers, they contain no threats of violence or threatening language. Rather, they present what the Goyam Defence League sees as a reality about individuals who control the mainstream media and invite readers to consider a different perspective. While some might consider this information to be offensive, there's nothing inherently threatening or intimidating about the distribution of flyers with factual information on them. These flyers have a statement on them noting that they are distributed randomly without a malicious intent. Now, on the face of it, this looks like a gross violation of the First Amendment, which guarantees freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. And this is not the first time that Ron DeSantis has signed a contentious bill which is limiting free speech. So he recently signed HB 741, so it required that all Florida public schools, colleges, and universities adopt a definition of anti-Semitism that includes certain forms of criticism of Israel. The definition in question is one adopted by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, which defines anti-Semitism as certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews, and includes examples such as denying the Jewish people a right to their self-determination and applying double standards to Israel. And so another provision of this bill is requires law enforcement agencies to conduct training on identifying and responding to anti-Semitic incidents. Many have raised concerns this provision could be used to target legitimate forms of protest and dissent, such example pro-Palestinian. If pro-Palestinian activists were to stage a peaceful demonstration outside an Israeli consular embassy, could they be accused of engaging in an anti-Semitic incident there? And these laws sound no different from the type of laws that are passed in Victoria and other jurisdictions in Australia there. Now, if he wanted to dispel what's contained in the Goyam Defence League flyers, Ron DeSantis, then he wouldn't sign a bill which attempts to criminalise their flyers in Israel. I mean, that is just an appalling look, and it looks like that Ron DeSantis, he's going, like, it would appear to people such as the Goyam Defence League, he's going over there to get the blessing of the Israelis so he can run for president there. Rob Nielsen, yes. Laura Loomer, she has called DeSantis out for this anti-free speech law, and Laura Loomer is Jewish herself. I mean, her nickname is Laura Juma. So yes, DeSantis, he has flip-flopped on on his position on Ukraine, because of course he wants neocon rhino money as well. So Ron DeSantis it seems that his freedom reputation is basically shot now, but certainly the stardust is coming off him there. Now let's go to, the news broke about 6 hours after the end of Tim's News Explosion last Monday, and that was, Fox News, they first released a statement saying that they and Tucker Carlson had mutually parted ways, but it was pretty clear that Tucker was fired, though we have learned from Megyn Kelly that he actually hasn't been fired. He's just been taken off the air. And so Tucker's contract runs with Fox until the end of 2024, though. So there's been a lot of speculation that the Fox Corporation, they might want to keep him benched and silenced throughout the 2024 election cycle. Tucker, he released a video message on his Twitter, which got 20 million views in its first 24 hours. I'm sure most of you have seen it, so I won't replay it again. Now, Tucker Carlson, he was the #1 rating cable news program. Tucker Carlson Tonight was the number one rating program. Now, there's been a lot of speculation about why he was fired. Was it because Fox News wanted a clear out after the settlement of the Dominion lawsuit, even though Tucker Carlson, he didn't believe what Sidney Powell was saying about Dominion voting systems and Smartmatic. So it couldn't be that. Could it be the lawsuit that was brought about by a former producer of Tucker Carlson, Abby Grossberg, who claimed that his working environment was misogynistic and complained anti-Semitism, though her lawyers, Abby Grossberg, she is gross by name and gross by appearance. So it's actually been admitted by her lawyers that she never met Tucker Carlson because of the death threats and the Antifa outside of his home. Tucker Carlson, he didn't actually film his show at the Fox News studio. It was from his personal studios in the state of Maine and state of Florida. So Abby Grossberg never met Tucker, and now apparently she has recordings of Tucker's office. She was an incredibly low level producer. Obviously, by making the recordings, she thinks she's the next Gretchen Carlson, who made the recordings of Roger Ailes when she launched a sexual harassment lawsuit against him, which led to the ousting of Roger Ailes from Fox News in 2016, and he died in early 2017. Though this lawsuit, it seems like a frivolous lawsuit, and like it almost seemed like, how did she sort of pass the vetting? I mean, given that she's the darling of MSNBC, I mean, did she go in with an agenda? Was this some sort of operation? And Ron reminds me that James O'Keefe, he was recently forced out of Project Veritas. He started a new media company, O'Keefe Media Group, OMG. And of course, Project Veritas, it was James O'Keefe. I mean, his exposés went viral, particularly the Pfizer R&D officer who said that they were looking at mutating COVID and said he was lying to impress his grinder date. And both O'Keefe and Tucker Carlson, they are MAGA, Trump, America First aligned. Now, Tucker Carlson, he was an outlier in cable news because he was opposed to the US, the US involvement in the war in Ukraine. The other conservatives at Fox News, Sean Hannity, he's been there since the beginning. Laura Ingraham, they are more than happy to just read the standard Conservative Inc., a conservative establishment talking points. Now, it's been reported, because there's a lot of ex-Fox News personalities who have their own media platforms now, such as Bill O'Reilly, No Spin News. There is, of course, Megyn Kelly with her radio program, which is available for free on YouTube. There is Glenn Beck, who founded The Blaze. And so they've got unique insights and still have contacts in there. They said that this would have been a decision made by the Murdochs themselves. Andrew Bolt, he said that the decision was made by Lachlan. Others say it was made by Rupert. But Andrew Bolt said is because in part because the Murdochs wanted to send a message that nobody is bigger than the company. And of course, Andrew Bolt, being a neocon, he said that I can't remember the exact term, but he described Tucker Carlson's reporting that there was biolabs in Ukraine as bonkers, even though Victoria Newland had admitted in Senate testimony to Marco Rubio that there were biolabs in Ukraine there. And so Tucker, he was there for so long at Fox News because he was so high rated, and so he could afford to be more fearless, say what he believed was right, what he really thought. He didn't read the talking points there. And so there is obviously speculation about where he will go next. Now, their Newsmax, which is another cable news channel, which has a conservative leaning. It was founded by Christopher Ruddy, who first came to prominence by suggesting that maybe Clinton aide Vince Foster didn't commit suicide. And so he is 100% fearless, Christopher Ruddy. The Newsmax current primetime lineup features two ex-Fox personalities, Eric Bolling on the balance at 8 p.m. He was fired from Fox News in 2017 for sexual harassment allegations, and Greta Van Susteren, she hosts The Record. Newsmax is available for free on YouTube, and it's interesting this week where they've had conservative activists, politicians on, such as Rudy Giuliani, Rick Grenell, Roger Stone, and Kimberly Guilfoyle, and they've always asked them, what do you think of Fox firing Tucker? Basically saying, please give Fox a kick for us. This is the ad that Newsmax has put out. Fox ratings drop 41% in the 8 p.m. hour, 12% total day, and down 25% prime time. Newsmax make the switch today. Fox is still number one cable news channel, though Newsmax, it's not on all the cable companies. This is one of another speculated reasons why Fox News got rid of Tucker, because they're renegotiating their cable agreements. I mean, who's still watching actual cable TV in putting the cord into the TV? So I would encourage all of you to drop to Newsmax. Now, Fox News is airing at 8 p.m. It's just called Fox News Tonight. So Brian Kilmeade, who is one of the co-hosts of Fox and Friends, is currently hosting the 8 p.m. slot, though they have found an 8 p.m. host to replace Tucker. So they have found Dylan Mulvaney, who will host Johnson Tucker Tonight, which sponsored by Bud Light, Pfizer, and Tampax there, because another issue for Fox, even though Tucker rated well, the left got a lot of advertisers through all the advertising. They really went after Tucker after a 2019 show when he said that mass uncontrolled migration to the United States made the country poorer, dirtier, and more divided, which he was just speaking the truth there, like Tucker always did, but apparently he crossed some imaginary line there. So they'll be hoping that their new 8 p.m. host gets the advertisers back. There was this other meme here. Bud Light, we made a dumb move and lost millions of customers and billions in revenue. Fox News says, hold my beer. It should be hold my Bud Light. And then there's, I'm not sure if you've seen this other meme as well. Nurse, you've been in a coma for 1 month. Oh, me, oh boy, I can't wait to watch Tucker Tonight with an ice cold Bud Light. Now, Dylan Mulvaney, in response to the backlash for. Now, the reason I'm saying her, because I don't want to get a takedown notice from our dear e-safety commissioner. So this was Dylan Mulvaney responding to news reports who don't refer to Dylan as her.
Like the articles written about me using he pronouns and calling me a man over and over again. And I feel like that should be illegal. I don't know. That's just bad journalism.
Well, if you move to Australia, you can move in New South Wales. It's sort of illegal. So, I mean, not that I want you to come to Australia, Dylan Mulvaney, but if you want a place that doesn't respect free speech, then come to Australia. And now, a not so surprising firing was of Don Lemon of CNN. He'd already been demoted from his CNN Tonight program to the breakfast program with two women. And he was suspended from that program for he tried to criticize Nikki Haley for a comment saying that Biden and Trump were past their prime by saying, well, she's a woman in her 50s, she's past her prime, even though Don Lemon, he's a gay man in his 50s. I mean, he's, ancient in gay years. And so there were lots of reports coming out of CNN that Don Lemon, he was not well liked. CNN, they'd already fired Chris Fredo Cuomo for helping dig up dirt on his brother Andrew Cuomo, former New York governor's accusers. Cuomo is now hosting a primetime program on another fledgling cable news channel, News Nation. And of course, CNN fired Brian Stelter as well, of reliable sources. So Anderson Cooper is the only only remaining big name that they have in their prime time. Now, a lot of people believe that Don Lemon, the segment that was sort of as the expression goes, the straw that broke the camel's back was this exchange here with a Republican presidential candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, where again, Don Lemon was lecturing him, you don't know what it's like to be a black man in America.
With due respect, I find your explanation reductive and actually insulting, including to black Americans, to say that black people today, compared to 1964, 1865, haven't made progress in part because of the freedoms we secured. And the Second Amendment was part of what secured
hang on,
that
please.
freedom.
I cannot keep a thought if you guys are talking to me in my ear. So hang on one second. So to say that black people, say what you said again.
Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They
That's
were
a
not
fact.
secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to
And you know
happen
how they
after the
got
Civil
it?
War
They got their
and
Second Amendment
Reconstruction.
rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don,
The NRA did not play a big role
absolutely,
in
they
that.
trained
That
black Americans
is
how
a
to use
lie.
firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in
This
that.
is just historical fact. But
It's
Don,
not a historical fact.
The part that I
Just
find
because you say it's historical fact.
The part
it's
that
not
I
a
find
historical
insulting
fact.
is when you say today black Americans don't have those rights after we have
The
gone
fact
through
that I find
civil rights
insulting
revolution
is
in this
that
country.
You are sitting here telling an African American about the rights and what you find insulting about the way I live, the skin I live in every day.
Here's
and
where you and I
know
have
the
a different
freedoms
point
that
of view.
black and white that black people don't have in this country, and that black people do have.
Well, here's where you and I have a different point of view. I think we should be able to express our views regardless of the color of our skin. We should have this debate
I'm not saying you
without
shouldn't
me
express your
regarding
views,
you as a
but I
black
think it's
man,
insulting that
but
you're
me
sitting
regarding you
here,
as a fellow citizen.
that you're
That's what I
sitting
think we should
here,
say.
whatever ethnicity you are, explaining to me
Whatever ethnicity I am,
about
I'll
what
tell
it's
you.
like to be black.
Whatever
in America.
ethnicity I am,
I'm
I'll tell
sorry.
you what I am. I'm an Indian American. I'm proud of it. But I think we should have this debate. Black, white doesn't matter.
I think we should have this
on
debate.
the
but I think
content
you should-
of the
if you're
ideas.
going to do it, you should do it in an honest way and in a
I
fair
think-
way. And what you're doing is not an honest and fair way. Okay?
With-
But we
with-
appreciate you coming on.
With
Thank
due
you for
respect,
that.
Don, I look forward to
Thank you very
continuing
much.
that
I appreciate
conversation.
it. We'll
Thank
continue
you.
the conversation.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you, Pop.
So oppress Don Lemon as a black man that he formerly was a host of a primetime cable news program. And let's remember one of his greatest hits is that we need to stop we need to stop demonizing people in America and realizing that most terrorists are white men. And of course, Don Lemon is gay, married to a white man. So there was a meme that went around, said Don Lemon calls white men terrorists, gets his ass terrorized by a white man every night. Now, Don Lemon, before he was infected by Trump derangement syndrome, he actually had some based and honest advice for young black men. I won't play that because we're pushed for time. But yeah, he just got more and more infected with Trump derangement syndrome and just couldn't get out of the identity politics mindset. He got the woke mind virus that Elon Musk talks about. He was on with Bill Maher talking about that. Don Lemon is the most classic example of the woke mind virus taking over, and now it's destroyed his television career. Now, you may have heard that there's another conflict in Sudan. This is the not South Sudan, which is seceded from Sudan around 15 years ago. Most of the Sudanese in Australia are from South Sudan, but there's been constant news reports and foreign government departments saying you need to get out of Sudan now because there is fighting between this paramilitary rapid support forces and the government-backed Sudanese armed forces. It's a military faction conflict. It seems that the foreigners in Sudan, they're taking their sweet time in getting out of there. But Sudan is supposed to be on a transition to democracy. In fact, Sudan was visited recently by, guess who? The Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs in the United States, Victorian Newland. This was on March 10. Pleased to meet with African Union Commissioner Bankole Idaya to discuss our joint commitment to advance peace and security in the Horn and throughout Africa, including democratic transition in Sudan, stabilization in Somalia, and peace and humanitarian access in Ethiopia. Every freaking time there's some sort of military conflict in a country, the outbreak of a civil war or something, Victoria Newland has visited. And we learnt from the World Health Organization, no less, that there is a bio lab in Sudan, in the capital, Khartoum. And so one of the warring factions has seized a laboratory holding measles and cholera pathogens and other hazardous materials, the World Health Organization. So, yes, Victoria Newland, she visits a country, then there's a conflict, and then, oh, there's a biolab that's been taken over there as well. Lady of Shalott says, "Ugly Newland, she is the kiss of death." Well, looks like it there. Well, if the polio gets out, well, at least there's already vaccines ready to go. And I'm not sure if young people today are vaccinated against polio, but it can be done like the smallpox vaccines were underway again when the monkeypox outbreak happened last year. Now I'll finish off. We sadly lost the king of trash TV in the 90s and 2000, Jerry Springer. I, for one, was a fan of it because, well, obviously it was highly entertaining, but it was a very frank and fearless exchange a lot of the time. Like, he brought it was a slice of American life. He brought, even though it was a freak show and some people call it a trailer park trash show, it was real. And he even invited, Klansmen, Nazis on there. And like back in those days, like of the Geraldo Rivera show and Maury, like, you got more honest conversations on those shows than what you get today, where, like, he platformed people that the mainstream media would say are beyond the pale. And Jerry Springer, he was obviously, because he was well-educated, former politician, he sort of brought it back down to earth and had his final thought. So he died at the age of 79 from cancer, and so I think he leaves a good legacy. Trash TV and tabloid trash like the National Enquirer. There was better journalism, better discussions in those days than what we have today there. So I think that he leaves a good legacy, and it's the end of an era. That's it from me tonight. Now I'll have a special Wilmsfront episode on Wednesday. I'll be speaking with alleged Australian coup plotter Theresa Van Lyshout. She was locked up for 7 months in prison for attempting to create, or being part of, a plot to create an alternate police force in Australia. And so she has been charged with impersonating a Commonwealth official. So that'll be airing on Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, on the Unshackled YouTube channel and other regular channels. Then on Sunday, there'll be another Wilmsfront interview with the John Ruddock MLC, the new Liberal Democrat in the upper house of New South Wales. So I'll be discussing with him about his plans for what agenda manifesto he is bringing to the upper house, how he'll deal with the new Minns government. Chris Minns was also at Kyle Sandilands' wedding as well. So I look forward to, I've had John on the show before, so I will be discussing, looking forward to catching up with him again, because when I last spoke to him, he was still trying to make the Liberal Party great, which he in the end realised was a lost cause. There'll be more reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft published this week. I will see you all on Wednesday. Until then, stay safe, stay sane, stay free, stay healthy, and also stay warm, because it's incredibly cold here, particularly in Melbourne here as well. Good night, everybody. Thank you again for all of your comments and support, and I will see you Wednesday. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.